Welcome everyone to another exciting Q&A with one of our providers. I'm Ben Ceccarelli, the Chief Brand Officer here at StemWave. I'm really excited to talk to this provider today. We've got Dr. Nicolas Parisi coming from Connecticut. He's the owner of Parisi Chiropractic and Wellness Center. What excites me the most is that Dr. Parisi has been a StemWave owner for about 3.5 months, but only started his clinic from scratch a couple months before getting a StemWave device. So that's such a cool thing. I just want to remind everybody that if you have questions for Dr. Parisi, if you have questions about StemWave, about the company, about his experience, throw it in the chat. And we'll have a section at the end of this video where we'll have Dr. Parisi answer your questions, or I'll answer them depending on what the questions are. But just know that you can always use the chat throughout. But without further ado, welcome, Dr. Parisi.
Thank you. How you doing?
I'm doing great. So, if you could just kind of give everyone a little bit of a history of yourself, we'll get into all the STEM wave stuff in a bit, but give us a basis of like where you come from, who you are, how you got into chiropractic.
So I'm over in Southington, Connecticut. It's probably like 25 minutes from Hartford. And growing up, I always knew I wanted to be in healthcare. I originally planned to do physical therapy, and then I kind of fell out of love with that through being a personal trainer and kind of getting sick of just kind of instructing only exercise and not really doing too much hands-on stuff. So I just kind of wasn't into it as much. And I was seeing a chiropractor at the time for a concussion-based injury. So that's kind of what led me into shadowing that chiropractor. And then they told me about the University of Bridgeport, which is where I went for school. And I went to Quinnipiac University for undergrad, just did general health science. And then for the last couple of years, I've been an associate because I graduated in December of 2022. And I've been an associate over in Torrington, Connecticut for a little while, doing a lot of dry needling, hands-on adjusting, electric stimulation, heat, the kind of the usual stuff at most chiropractic offices, cupping therapy, things like that. And then I opened up my practice back in October of 2024. And I'm very glad that I did. I was always planning to do my own thing, so I never wanted to just stay an associate forever. And but in that process of working for another chiropractor, I kind of realized some shortcomings of, I would say, the therapies that we were doing at the time. So, which is kind of what led me to researching more about shockwave therapy and ultimately led me to StemWave. But so
Well,
that's a little bit about me.
so you got into chiropractic because you had a personal good experience with a doctor that was doing chiropractic on you. And then
Exactly.
you decided that you wanted to give that to other people.
Yes.
Wow.
100%.
I mean, that's kind of like, I guess, what you expect, you want to hear from most doctors is that they want to relay the experience that they had for them and pay it forward almost. What was it before you started your clinic? What was kind of going through your mind? Was it like a big leap of faith for you, or
Yeah, it was because I would say, I mean, maybe this just is my own experience, but most people that I know that have started their practices, they kind of buy another practice that a chiropractor might be retiring or moving or whatever it may be, and you at least have somewhat of like a patient base there to begin with. So I, didn't really want to buy another practice. I wanted to start from scratch. So it was definitely nerve wracking to say the least. But I had a good paying, associate job at the time too. So I was kind of, giving that up and letting somebody else take that spot and taking the leap of faith and doing my own thing. But just stayed true to what I believed in, my level of service, my level of care, my approach to care, all those different things, and just kind of really believed in that, believed in myself, and just kind of went for it. But it was definitely nerve wracking for sure. I'm in a town, in Southington, we have like, I would say around 10 chiropractic offices, maybe in Southington, 8 to 10, something like that. So I knew also, I was a little nervous about that. There's some big practices in the town. They got a lot of Google reviews, a lot of presence. They're on the main road. They got a big sign, all those kinds of things. So that also made me a little bit nervous, but I knew what I would be doing in my practice was a little bit different than what, they're typically doing. A lot of the practices around here are more traditional. So they kind of do, quick appointments that are maybe 5 minutes and they just kind of adjust people and, send them on their way, so to speak, which is not a problem. But I just knew it wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to do more. I wanted to be able to deliver a higher level of service or a higher level of care to my patients that maybe don't respond to the typical, adjustments, or, I'm doing dry needling a lot. I do it pretty much every day on at least a few patients, maybe 50% of my patients. So even doing that, I also saw shortcomings in that as well when it came to being limited in terms of the results I could see. So, but knowing, like I said, my communication skills, my level of care that I was delivering, I knew that, I think, at the time I was like, I knew that I had a good chance of being able to make it work, but it was definitely still a leap of faith for sure.
Yeah, I mean, look, kudos to you for starting your own business. Anybody who's ever
Thank you.
started their own business, they know that is not an easy thing. There's a lot
Yeah.
of unknowns going in, but it sounds like it's working out well for you. And what I love what you just said is that you wanted to offer a level of care to your patients that you just, weren't able to before with other things. Even some of the things that you were doing very well, like dry needling, it just wasn't able to get the type of results that you were looking for.
Yeah.
And I think that's like the perfect candidate for somebody looking to bring StemWave into their clinic. I mean, we say it all the time. I mean, you may have seen it in some of our ads and our marketing is that StemWave's not for everybody, but it's really for the people, the disruptors, the people that want to provide that next level, provide something that's cutting edge that's going to be able to get their patients to that finish line of like really like healing and feeling better.
Mhm.
So hearing that you were already thinking that way, trying to like give your patients something special, how did StemWave kind of get on your radar?
Well, I didn't know about StemWave initially. I just kind of knew about shockwave therapy in general. And I think if I remember correctly, I think I found out about it through like Instagram. I think there was a chiropractor I was following that was doing it. And I think they had a Stores medical device. And I didn't really know anything about the technology aspect of shockwave therapy and how, there's, I guess, technically, whatnot, four specific types, the radial, piezoelectric, electromagnetic, and then, of course, electrohydraulic.
Oh, you've done your research. You've done your
Yes, and
research.
I was diving really deep on it because I knew it was something I wanted, and I knew it was something that was growing in popularity, and wasn't growing in popularity just because it looked cool or sound cool, was marketable, was because it actually was having some pretty profound results to it, and it was helping people that I felt fell into that category of what I had seen of failing care, severe osteoarthritis or other things like that, or even more things than just that. But I see that pretty often, at least in my associateship experience. So I already knew, like, I was thinking about it in my head. And this was even, I'd say, maybe 6 months before I even opened my own practice. And so I was like, okay, well, what's the difference between all these things? And of course, the first thing comes up is like price of the devices with radial versus electrohydraulic or whatnot, and all the in betweens. And I basically, through researching all of them, found obviously that electrohydraulics seem to have the best effects or treat the most significant conditions. So I said, okay, well, I want the thing that can do the most. So in my mind, though, I knew, of course, the technology could be great, but I was like, I need to make sure that that technology can be delivered properly to the body. So I was like, okay, well, let's see what companies are producing electrohydraulic. And I think the only three that at least I saw was uh, Softwave, Chattanooga, and then StemWave. But then I was like, okay, well, they can't all be created equally, right? I know they could all do it, deliver it, but how well are they delivering it? So I dived deeper into that. Watched a lot of videos, read a lot of articles, whatever it was, and basically I understood very well pretty quickly that the stem wave device specifically was, in my opinion, I don't know if it's my opinion or if it's more, to me it's objective, but I guess it is just my opinion. I think it's the best at delivering it. Just the design of the applicator head and everything, and the control of the waves and all the stuff that I'm sure maybe some of the people in here have already heard about, and maybe I'm just preaching to the choir here, but all those types of things, when it came to the delivery system, to me was apparently better with StemWave. So then I was like, okay, well, let's look into this further. What is it going to cost? Of course, I'm a new practice. I don't have tons of patients coming in. I've got a lot of friends, a lot of family. They all love chiropractic, so they're coming in. But in terms of just general public, I was still building up. So that's what led me to StemWave. And then I just kind of kept going from there. And then everything that I saw, I liked. And I just ended up saying, you know what? I think that no matter what I do, I'm going to need this at some point. And in my mind, too, I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, what are all these other practices in my town doing? What are they not doing? And this was kind of one of the things that they weren't doing, didn't have. And honestly, quite a bit of the people that I have coming in for their trials are people that have been to all these other practices in town, and they tell me that they've had mild, moderate kind of success, or no success, or whatever it is. And I, use this device on them once, and it gets them more relief than they've had out of multiple treatments, at these other places. So it led me to StemWave. I'm glad I picked it, and it's been good so far.
Nice. Well, I want to congratulate you for doing the research. That's such an
Thank you.
important component. And anybody that's watching this that's, thinking about, putting a StemWave device in their clinic or even just curious about StemWave, do the research, compare us to whatever else is out there. I think
Oh,
you'll
yeah.
come to a similar conclusion as Dr. Parisi that yes, we deliver our waves in a focused manner. It's different than some of our other competitors. It's the most effective. But we actually released just last week or 2 weeks ago on our YouTube page a comparison between radial pressure waves and our device. So if anybody was curious about how that works, you can check it out on our YouTube. Um, but yeah, so StemWave was kind of like the easy choice for you.
Mhm.
What was the process like for you as far as once you knew you wanted StemWave, how to then get it into your clinic?
So when I was trying to inquire, of course, about what the cost was and everything like that, I worked with Dr. Jen Miller, who was fantastic, and
She's awesome. Yeah.
she gave me like a better, I guess, understanding of like how to implement it, because that was also the thing that I was thinking about. So she was able to lead me through the process of not only, of course, what the cost would be, but how to implement it properly. And then at that point, it was like the benefit, and the risk to benefit to me, right, was just a substantial difference, right? There was just so much to benefit from getting it. But she really opened my eyes to, what it was going to cost, how to implement it, how to put it in, into place. She had a similar situation as me where she started, at least I believe this is what she told me. I know it was a long time ago, but she started her practice pretty soon, or pretty close to when she got her device. So she opened my eyes to that and the capability of it. And then basically, she convinced me pretty quickly by just telling me what she was able to accomplish with it in terms of the level of care she was giving to her patients. And then, so when I decided to get it, um, basically 2 days later, I flew to Pittsburgh and trained with Dr. DeCesaro.
Nice.
Um, but yeah, I don't know if I went off on a tangent there.
No,
What
no,
was
that's
it
perfect.
again?
I think it's important to point out, you brought
Yeah,
up a great point. We have an excellent sales team. Like when you call, if you book a call with our team, which you can do on our website, or through an ad, like we have a very, very good sales team. But one of the things
yeah,
that I think makes us stand out is that on our sales team, we do have members that are doctors themselves, like
yes,
Dr. Miller. And it's really great to be able to relay to you her own experience of, okay, she opened up her own practice. She brought StemWave in. This is kind of how you're able to use it and make it work for you. So for people that are thinking about StemWave, just know that when you do talk to our team, you're going to have, some real people that will help you figure it out for your practice, make it work. And I do want to just kind of bring up too, like we mentioned earlier when I first introduced you, you started your practice a couple months before you brought in StemWave, and we've already talked about how you wanted to, provide your patients with, an exceptional level of care. Like, walk me through that thought process. If you open your practice, you're trying to build your patient base, and right off the bat, you're thinking, I need to bring in a device.
yeah. It was definitely wild, I guess, at the moment, because I remember talking to my wife about it. And so my wife, she's a big component to the practice. She doesn't technically work here. I think she has her own job, but she comes here, she helps me with a lot of things. And so when I was talking to her about, wanting to get something like this, and the first thing was, okay, of course, was what's the cost, right? That was the first thing. Um, but it was, I knew it was, I guess, in theory risky, but in my mind, I kind of also knew it wasn't, because I knew, or I like to say knew, maybe just what I had seen at the time and been and heard, and what Dr. Miller told me, all those things reassured me that it was possible to do well, even being a brand new practice, having a limited patient base. I knew that not only was it the fact that it could work, but also the fact that she told me all about the support that StemWave provides to the providers, right? So it's like all these different ways of, we go to school to learn how to help people, but we don't go to school to learn how to market, right? Market ourselves and what we're able to do for these people. We kind of, hope for people to show up and we could show them when they get here, but it's hard to tell them before they get here what we can do for them. So I knew that with all the support and everything that is given to us, which is honestly extensive, very extensive. I knew with that and diving head first into learning about it, I knew that it was something that was kind of sounded risky on paper, but to me really wasn't, because I knew once I started to get my first few people in here and, they were candidates and they started treatment and they saw the things that, it was able to achieve that they couldn't get from anything else, so to speak. I knew that that would just slowly permeate, through the nearby community, whether it's in my town in Southington or if it's the neighboring towns or whatnot. So it was definitely a little scary, but I also felt very confident at the same time because of all the conversations that me and Dr. Miller had about the support. I think the support is huge. I think the fact that I can, have I have my 30-day meetings with Amy, right, for marketing and just getting people in here, because I knew if I could get people just to come in here and try it, I knew that's all I needed, because I knew that I was going to put a lot of effort into communication with them on what it is, because people come in here, they just have questions, question after question, and I make sure that I give them that quality and a good amount of quantity of time to ask those questions and just understand how it works and why, it can help them in their current situation. But I think that just knowing more about it and learning the technology, learning all you can about it and how it works and what it does, and being able to properly convey that to the patient once they get in the door. I knew that I'd be able to do those things. So I just really needed the help on just getting them to kind of get here. And then I knew I could take it from there. So I felt nervous about, of course, the cost because I'm a new practice, but I knew that if I implemented everything properly and used all the support and all the resources that StemWave provides, I knew that it would go well. I felt very confident of that.
Yeah, again, I think that's a testament to you doing the research. And I think for other providers who maybe are opening up a new practice and are like concerned if StemWave would be right for them so early on, just like you saw, I mean, you look at the research, the efficacy is undeniable. And just knowing that if you can get some people in and get them treated right away, they're going to be bought in and they're going to start ordering, or getting all the treatment plans and being rolled into your system. And I also have to say that based off of what you just talked about, where the support was undeniable with StemWave, we realize that most devices, they kind of drop them off at your clinic and then you don't really ever hear from the company again. And we make sure that we are the exact opposite of that. There is so much support. You touched a little bit on it. We'll go into more in a little bit, but you were just talking about after you made the decision to get StemWave, you went to Pittsburgh. And for people that don't know, when you become a StemWave provider, even if you're just curious, we have these group trainings where they're now all over the country. We have West Coast, we have East Coast, we have some in the middle. You get trained in a group setting with one of our clinical advisors. In this case, it was with Dr. DeCesaro in Pittsburgh. Um, Give people an idea of number one, what your expectations were going into that group training, and then what it ended up being like when you were finished and how they kind of compare.
Hmm. I would say expectations going. I didn't really have any. I feel like I knew I was going to learn. I knew that. I knew I was going to learn a lot, and I just had confidence in what I had already seen and the experience I already had at that point, just through the process of learning about everything with Dr. Miller. Like I keep saying, I already felt very confident that I was going to go there and I was going to learn all the things, or well, a majority of the things, right, that I needed to know when it came to just how it works, right? Because of course we went into that with Dr. DeCesaro had the presentation, and we went over all that and talked about the differences between, like we had mentioned, the radial, the piezoelectric, electromagnetic, electrohydraulic. We went over all that kind of stuff, and I definitely got a lot out of that part. And it was a fun experience. It was very hands on. We had a great demonstration that he did with it. One of the people that was at my training had like a knee problem, and so he did the mapping on her to show us how it was done. But what was cool, and I kind of replicated this a few times already myself because of this experience. He had her go up and down the stairs because that was her worst, movement or activity, right, to irritate the knee pain. Had her go up and down the stairs. We, did a pain scale. I think it was like an 8 or something down or 7 up or something like that. It was pretty significant. And she had this problem, I think, for years, I think she had said. So he did the mapping and showed how to identify the areas of inflammation, damaged tissue, stuff like that. Um, then when we were done, we went back out, went back up and down the stairs. I think it was like a 2. It was like a drastic change. And he said, well, when's the last time it felt that good to go up and down the stairs? And I think she said like high school or something. I think I can't remember how old she was, but I mean, high school, I would assume probably at least 10 plus, 15 plus years from that day, 10 years, 15 years ago. So it was to see that was really cool, to be able to see the device in person, because I bought the device. It wasn't delivered to me. And then I flew 2 days later to go get trained because I was just jumping, head first into it. So I never seen the device in person, never, played with the settings or even, held the applicator head. So I got to do all that in the training. That was a good experience. It was just really fun. And then we talked about, we all sat down. We kind of all talked. There was MDs there, DCs, DPTs, APRN, a neurosurgeon. There was a very interesting array of people, which I liked that because just different perspectives and point of views. And we were able to all sit down and talk about it and ask questions. And it was just a great experience. It really was. So when I was leaving that, I remember I was in the airport and I had called my wife and I was like, this is the real deal. Like I'm very, very happy with I was very happy with how the experience went. I felt very, I already felt confident, but I felt like it was just very kind of sealed the deal for me, I guess, so to speak. Like I knew like I'd made the right choice and I knew that as long as I put the effort in on my end and used all the resources that were given to me as much as I possibly could, I knew that it was going to go really well. So I left feeling, I already, like I said, felt confident, but I left feeling like 110%. If I was already at 100% confidence, I was at 110%. There was I just couldn't go any higher from there. So it was a really good experience.
That's great. You touched on something that's also one of my favorite things to see. I've been able to go to a few group trainings myself, and my favorite thing is always when you have somebody like you mentioned that has some sort of chronic pain or chronic injury, and they're still skeptical. It's like you. Sometimes these people haven't ever interacted with the device in person. Most people, and they get up there and they get a treatment and then they're instantly like wait, why doesn't that hurt anymore? Like
Yeah.
the proof is in the pudding. And once people get it on them, is even the providers that come to the group training, especially the providers, that's where you can see that that switch that flips, that okay, like yes, this is exactly what I thought it was going to be and more. And then they end up walking away, like you said, feeling 110% confident. Were there any other people in your group training that you saw have that switch that got flipped?
I think there was somebody, I can't remember exactly how I watched somebody get their shoulder done. I forget. I think he had pretty significant change as well. I think just like you're just moving after. He didn't even have to do much than that just to already notice a difference. He just kind of did some, arm circles or whatever, right? And he already noticed the difference as well. I can't remember though how chronic his problem was or whatnot. I can't remember what he said, but there was somebody who had a shoulder issue, and they same thing. Same mapping was done, and he felt a difference immediately.
Yeah, I
So
don't know if
it
you've
was
ever if you've seen this with your patients. I've seen this, for all the various trainings and things that I've been at, and it always makes me laugh that people come in with, some sort of injury and a lot of pain, and then they get that first treatment, and the pain is reduced so much and the mobility has increased so much they almost try to like re-injure it, like
yep,
by testing it out just to prove to you like there's no way
mhm,
that it could feel this good this
yep,
fast, and they try to like bend themselves
yeah.
in strange
They'll
positions,
keep doing whatever the movement that irritated before. They'll just keep doing it because they're just waiting for the pain to come, and it just doesn't.
and it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you have a great experience at the group training, you're like reinvigorated, you come, what was the first time you opened the uncrating of the device? Like,
Hmm.
give people an idea of what that was like once it got to the clinic and you start kind of going through all the processes of getting it up and running.
Yeah. I mean, the delivery was easy. I just, was there for when it came in, and then they brought it in and uncrated it for me. And then I, saw it and I was like, okay, well, I'm ready to use it. I probably used it, I would say, because this was, I think it was like December 18th or whatnot. So it was like close to Christmas time. I think I used it on like a couple family members or something like before Christmas. And then when I came back, I just dived right in and just started using it on anybody that I thought was fitting for it. So the delivery was real easy. When I got it in here, I was just really excited to use it, really. And then I already had some patients lined up that I was already treating as just regular chiropractic care that I knew could benefit from it, or at least I thought they could, right? And I wanted to try it on them. And so one of them, she ended up being a really good candidate. She had like 12 years, I think it was 12 years, if I remember off the top of my head, 12 years of tailbone pain. And she had all this extensive testing done, MRIs and all these different things, and PT and other chiropractors and medications, and it just nothing was working. And I was like, we tried some dry needling, which she hadn't had until she saw me. So we tried that. It just nothing was working. And I was like, I know I'm getting this device. I don't have it yet, but when I get it, I would love to use it on you. And she said, yeah, I'll do anything at this point. And she is one of those people. We did her mapping, we did her 10 visits, and now she's on maintenance care and she's at 85% improvement. And this was something she dealt with for 12 years. So like with her, she was the very first like just true patient that I dived in with on it. And I was just I was just taken back by it. It was just amazing. And the things you could see with it is just crazy. But yeah, when I first got it in the office, it was like, I need to use it. I need to use it like now, and then after that, of the people that I had in here already for chiropractic care, the small amount that I had, I was like, okay, well, now what? Right. I'm like, I already used it on the people that I know could benefit from it. The phone calls are slow. There's not many people calling, right? Because I just opened up. I'm like, okay, well, I'm doing all my training online. I was doing all that. And I saw that, usually you focus on internal marketing first, but I knew that I couldn't. So my next step was going into the external marketing so I can get people in here. That was kind of what I did right away.
That's an amazing first treatment story. I mean, you kind of beat me to it because I was going to ask you, do you remember the first patient you treated?
Oh, yep.
It's always fun for me to hear because usually it's
Yeah.
something like along those lines where it's just this huge improvement for somebody that a lot of times providers do exactly what you did. They find
Yeah.
somebody who's had something so chronic and tried almost everything, and they're almost like hopeless, and then you show them there's hope with StemWave, and it
Mm-hmm.
just changes their life. As far as like getting the machine up and running, for people that, don't know, they're kind of new to StemWave, if you could just talk about, how easy it was to kind of get it ready to
Oh,
treat.
yeah. Yeah, it was really easy because, of course, I'd watched all the videos too of creating the solution for inside the applicator head and everything like that. Um, but yeah, the videos that you guys provide make it really easy. Like you get it. I felt so confident to use it like immediately. Like just from the training, even I felt already confident because we learned so much there about how to use it and set it up. And then when I got here, I refreshed my memory a little bit, watched some of the videos and everything. And I was really like nervous at the same time while excited to use it because I'm like, I just didn't want to mess anything up. I was like, this thing is, so it was so important to me at that moment that I got it and I was so excited to use it. But I was like, I need to make sure everything I do is the right way. I didn't want to make anything go wrong. So, but it's really hard to do that as we all know, especially with the resources that we get. So really easy. Basically everything came. I have it to my left. That's why I'm looking over here.
Mhm.
I had everything come in, of course, and then all the boxes and everything, and I'd open everything up, and it was easy to assemble it all together. And honestly, it was just really like plug and play. Very, very easy. You don't feel nervous unless you're afraid of doing something wrong because you just value it so much, like I did. But other than that, like it was really easy. You plug it into the wall. Obviously, that's the easy part too. You screw in the cable in the handle, and then the applicator heads that come in, they have the spark plugs, the electrodes in them already. So you just screw that on and you're good to go. And as long as you make sure that you're using the right ratios with the salt and the distilled water, and you make sure to shake it really well before you put it in there. I'm a little probably OCD with it. I refresh my solution every day.
Okay.
That's just how I like to do it because I don't want any chances of anything decreasing the effectiveness of the treatment. So every single day before I leave, when I leave at night, I dump it out. I let it kind of do its thing without anything in it. Come back in the morning, I put a fresh amount of solution right in there and make sure there's no air bubbles, which that's easy. You guys get the flashlight that comes in the box too. That's nice. But yeah, it was real easy, and it was a fun process, honestly.
Right, well, you're going to get a lot of use out of your handpiece cable and your applicator head if you're
Yeah,
changing out the solution all the time. But yeah, I think it's important for people to know this is not like looking through IKEA instructions. Like it's a very
definitely
simple
not.
device to get ready to treat. There's only a few components that need to be kind of screwed in and loaded up. But you kind of touched on as well. We do have an extensive library of information, whether that's articles or videos or documents of like how to use it in your clinic or even soap notes for when you're dealing with patients. All that stuff is provided. And for people that don't know, when you become a StemWave provider, you get a dedicated client success manager for
Mm-hmm.
you and your clinic, and you get to communicate with them as often as you need. They're right there with you. They're helping you onboard. They're helping you figure things out. What was your experience like with your CSM?
Very good. I still we still meet. I think we're doing every 3 weeks. I think we're doing every 4 weeks now. So, but it's to me those meetings are extremely valuable. Like of course, blocking off your schedule for some people isn't what they love to do, especially if they're very busy. Especially if you're a chiropractor. I mean, I guess usually volume is something that's common in a chiropractic practice. Not necessarily what I really wanted to do. I didn't want to have tons of people coming in. So, but I think that even though obviously I have to block off part of my schedule, I look forward to it because every single time that I have either the meeting, either if it's for that or also the marketing meetings, both of those meetings, I very much so value them. I think they're very important. I think that it almost like if you're somebody that you like to have somebody to keep you accountable maybe or keep you in check, I think that's nice too. If that's just your personality, I think that's a very valuable part to it. And then of course you just have like an open floor to ask questions or even if you have concerns, just to voice them. And it's a very, very valuable meeting. It really is. I mean, it's just something that I think everybody should do. At least on a monthly basis, in my opinion. I think it's just something that's even if you know a bunch of things that you think of that you need to talk about, just you might not even know where it leads. Like sometimes I go in there and I'm like, I don't really have too much that I think that I have like questions or things to share necessarily, but then I go in there and I still get something out of it. So I think it's extremely valuable for sure.
Yeah, and again, I think this touches on what we talked about earlier that unlike other companies and devices, we stay in touch with you throughout the whole process. Like, as long as you're a StemWave provider, you have our support, and we try to help you as much as possible and provide as many materials to you as you really want. I think a lot of people are a little nervous about not so much like the efficacy of the device, but how are they going to be able to like generate revenue with it? How are they going to be able to market it? Give us an idea of like your experience with, how you've been able to market it, how StemWave has kind of provided you with stuff to help market it, and what you've seen as far as how it's done for your clinic.
So I initially, because like I said, I had to dive into the external marketing basically right away because I mean, probably within the first 2 weeks, I was like, okay, now I got to get people in here. I started with making flyers. So I'm in an office building. So I made flyers, with the referral, QR code on it. And I started going around just putting that in everybody's, sliding under their doors. I did my wife, my brother-in-law, my wife's brother, my brother-in-law, he does videography. So we filmed actually the day that it was delivered, we filmed a little thing about like a little edit together to post on my social media about it being here and being a new thing and something to try. I try to post it a lot on Facebook or on my Instagram. I filmed some videos of me using it, so I've done that. But when it came to basically the next step was direct mail for me. I jumped in on direct mail really quick. I did, I think, 5,000. direct mailers that I sent out, and they're still going out. Actually, they're not even done yet. I think they have another month or so, like month, 4 or 5 weeks left. And I've gotten some people from that. They've come in, and luckily, most of them are like usual. Most people are candidates, which is great, and that things go really well. And then I just recently started Facebook ads last what was it last Wednesday. And the Facebook ads have done tremendously well for me. I would say that between last Wednesday and today, I've almost had around 20 leads already. So it's working really well for me. I know that it's a maybe an area based thing, I would assume, but for me, it's working really well. So I had to do a lot of external stuff mainly because I didn't have, like I said, a patient base really to go off of. I had a couple people or two or three people, but once those two or three already had their trials, already signed up and everything, I was like, well, where do I go from here? So external for me was huge. I think the mailers are a good thing. I think for me, the Facebook was even better, Facebook ads. And another thing I'm trying to do is there's a local pickleball uh, indoor pickleball facility, and they have like 9 courts or something like that. So I'm going to be sponsoring a court, but really it's visible by all of them. But it's going to be like a 6x8 banner, I think it is, or 4x8. I think it's 6x8 that I'm going to be doing soon. So stuff like that. There's a lot of golf courses, actually 2 golf courses in my town, so in Southington. So I'm going to be going over there probably soon because it's getting warmer over here, and try and talk to the golf pro. Build some relationships where we could be mutually beneficial with in terms of their members. So if their members they're injured or whatnot, they can't use the facility because they're sitting at home, and so we could have a mutually beneficial thing there. I go to my Southington Chamber of Commerce meetings. We have one every month that's like our networking meeting. So I go there. I've been able to meet a marketing rep of the local orthopedic office, which is like across the street from me. So she was really interested in it actually, because we talked about it for a little while. So I was able to kind of get that relationship started a little bit. And hopefully eventually we're going to schedule some meetings with some of the orthopedists and talk about if there's people that they see that maybe aren't a surgical candidate but they're failing, maybe cortisone, epidurals, oral anti-inflammatories, muscle relaxers, whatever it is, PT, all those types of things. If they're failing that, or chiropractic, right? If they're failing chiropractic, you could still see a chiropractor, but we're not going to do what you've already had. We'll do something different. But those are all kind of the things. I think that's pretty much everything that I've done so far. So I've really dived into trying to just get people in here. I mean, whatever way I think is valuable, and even ways that I'm like kind of weary on, I still am like, hey, I just got to try it and see if it works. And if it doesn't, then I'll move on to the next thing. But I definitely think that that support that I get, that I mentioned before, every 30 days I get to meet with Amy for marketing. That is so valuable to me because I don't even know where I would really begin, if I didn't have her helping me along the way. So, it's been a good process with the marketing side of things for sure.
That's great. I mean, yeah, the direct mailers work for a lot of people. Um, all the things that you mentioned you're doing is excellent. I think is like a good thing for providers that are on this call to hear if they're having trouble figuring out like what's the best way that I can get people into my clinic. The pickleball court idea is fantastic. I mean,
Yeah. That
even
was
just talking
Amy.
to
I can't take credit. That was Amy's idea.
Okay. Well, nice job,
I'll give it
Amy.
to her. Yeah.
That's why she's doing what she's doing.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, I think every time I talk to a provider and we talk about, how StemWave is helping their patients, they mention so and so had a pickleball injury. So, for
Yep.
anybody on this call, if you got pickleball courts by you, that's a great place to put up some flyers or hand out brochures, which when you become a StemWave provider, we send you a welcome box. We give you a roll-up banner. We give you a bunch of trifold brochures to kind of like kick off some of your marketing and
Oh
and
yeah.
just handouts and stuff. There's one right behind you. Perfect.
Yep.
And then we have, some other great assets that we share where we have these offer boards that you can print out and have little tickets on in your waiting rooms to get people excited about StemWave. We have different things you can purchase on our store, like um, you know, business cards or other types of banners and things like that. So yeah, we really do try to make it as easy as possible for our providers to get the word out about what they're doing with StemWave. I want to remind everybody that if you have questions for Dr. Parisi, throw them in the chat. We'll get to them in a little bit. In the meantime, I want to find out a little bit about when we first hopped on this call before everyone else joined on. You told me that you were just completing a mapping with a patient and brought her to tears. And I want you to talk a little bit about what it's been like to use StemWave and get that kind of emotional reaction from patients.
I would say that if, at least in my situation, I think it just reinvigorates the passion that you have for what you do, which is amazing. Because sometimes, there's days where I've come in here and I almost go home and I'm like, did I really help anybody today? Sometimes you have those days where a lot of people come in and maybe the services that you had to offer them, maybe they were a good thing to try, but sometimes it just falls flat. And so when I have people come in here and I'm able to have one treatment with somebody who's, probably had, I think she had like 10 other things that she had already tried. And she's had MRIs, she's had all these imaging and things. And to have somebody not only get better from one visit, but to get better before they even leave, to the point where they have that type of emotional release and they're thanking you, time like 10 times in a row because they can't even express how they feel. It just honestly, it really makes me feel like what I'm doing is actually making a difference, and that's what I wanted to do. So to have a day like that, even if I saw nobody today and I saw that one patient, at least for me, and I saw that one patient and we achieved what we did. And, if that was all I had for the day and nobody else was on the schedule, that day to me was a significant win. So I think it just brings back the passion that sometimes you can slightly lose, throughout the job. And of course that goes for any provider, any type, but I think that passion is the best word for it. It brings it back for
That
sure.
that's incredible. And I think that's a good reminder of, what we're doing here. Not just you as a provider, but us as a company, StemWave. Yeah, we have an amazing device and it gets amazing results. And of course, we want to sell as many of them as possible, but more so, the reason why we're here and the reason why we want to sell so many devices is because we're really trying to change traditional healthcare. We're trying to be that disruptor so that when people do have chronic or acute musculoskeletal injuries, it's not injections, it's not surgery, it's not pain pills, it's stem wave. It's something that's non-invasive, it's something that's natural. Your body will naturally heal if it has that kickstart, and that's what stem wave does. And we care. We want to hear these stories. We want to have those teary-eyed hopefulness moments with the patients. And that's really what we're all about. So we're very much so aligned there, Dr. Parisi, and like what your goals are and what our goals are as a company. So if you were going to like talk to another colleague, another provider who is maybe on the fence about StemWave, what would you say to them?
Get it right away. It's like I have a friend of mine that I went to school with. He is big into decompression therapy, so he's doing very well with it. But he works for another chiropractor, so he's still an associate. But I think he sees more growth in that practice, and it looks like he's planning to stay and eventually take it over at some point. So, but he was telling me recently, this was maybe like a week or two ago, that they are looking and getting a unit, not a stem wave device, sadly. And I was telling them, well, what are you looking at? And they were looking at a radial pressure wave through Chattanooga. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, well, I definitely don't recommend it at all. Obviously, I've never had it or used that device, but just knowing what I know and the experience that I've had with what I did decide to get, I was like, buy nicer, buy twice. Like, you get the real deal, get the thing that's going to do the most. Because later on, you're going to notice where, radial can have a limited effect. Obviously, it's not something that's useless, but it's just nowhere near the same conversation. To me, it's like apples and oranges, really. Like, they're both fruit, but like they're not the same. There's no comparison to me. And I was trying to convince him, and I convinced him pretty easily because I just told him my experience with it, and I told him what the differences were in terms of the technology and stuff. And he's a very science-based guy. We went to a science-based chiropractic school. It was all science. We had no philosophy or really anything. So we were both came from that background. So he understood it and liked it and bought into it to the point where he was trying to convince his boss not to get the radial pressure wave, and to the point where he scheduled his own call actually with StemWave, and but she made him cancel it. So she fought against it, and I was like, she's gonna regret it. He's like, I know. And I'm like, she should just get the real thing. I mean, just go. To me, it's like just go all the way with it. I mean, to me, it's like, why half-ass it, right? That's what I always say. It's like just go all the way in, get the right thing the first time. You know, if you're worried about price and that's why you're getting the cheaper device, let's say, right, cheaper options, and still being able to say it's Shockwave, well, you're going to have limited results, and you're going to have a limited amount of patients, probably a smaller number that are going to get better, and then you're going to eventually say, "Damn it, I wish I got it," and then you're going to end up getting it later, anyways. I mean, that's how I look at it. That's what I think would happen to me. I think if I went with the whole gut feeling of, oh my God, this is risky. I just started a practice and I got this, radial pressure device, and, it's way cheaper and whatever. And it's still Shockwave and it could have some good effects. But then I got to the point where I was like, I'm not even getting that many people better. And I'm kind of limited almost to where I feel where radial kind of lives, which is, muscles and maybe some tendons and stuff. It's kind of surface level stuff. It's not something that's going to be really significant for like maybe osteoarthritis or something, right? Something that's a little bit more in depth. So I just know that I would say, damn it, I wish I got the right thing. And then I would end up keeping the radial pressure device like in a closet and buy the StemWave later. That's what I knew what I would do. So that's why I was like, if I'm going to buy anything, just get it the first time. So any conversations I have with anybody about Shockwave now, I'm like, just get the StemWave. That's just what I say. Don't look at the other ones, just get the StemWave. It's just that easy.
Buy nice or buy twice.
Yep.
Can we use that?
Of course. Go
That's
ahead.
such a great saying. It's interesting, this whole talk about radial pressure wave. Again, we released a video on our YouTube. People can just go to YouTube and type in radial versus stem wave.
Yeah.
Our lead clinical advisor, Dr. Manison, who reads every study out there, has gone on record and shown the studies that the studies point out that radial is not actually true shockwave.
Hmm.
So it's just kind of interesting. I know there's a
Yeah.
lot of companies that say they are, but yeah, for anybody that's curious about the comparison, you
Yeah.
should definitely check out our video, whether we do a good job of being objective about the differences and why stem wave is a much better modality if you really want to get to those focused areas of treatment. There's really no other device that does that.
Yeah.
Take a couple questions right now from people in the chat. Um, when would this treatment not be appropriate for a patient with pain?
It's a good question. I feel like a very in-depth question. I mean, to me, I guess I guess you can go very basic if I wanted to and answer this question, which is like, you guys provide us with the consent forms, let's say. And if there's things, contraindications that they check off on those consent forms, then of course, if they would not be a candidate even for a trial, let's say. And I guess it depends where the pain is, right? If their pain is, well, of course, if their pain, let's say their pain is like, in their side of their head or something, and you are maybe not so versed on, let's say, pain referral patterns or something. You don't know that that could be coming from lower down, let's say. Obviously, somebody would not be a candidate if you actually were thinking that you should treat where the pain is on the side of their head, right? So I would say most people with pain are appropriate. I would just kind of sum it up as that most of the time. It's definitely something where you just have to be a doctor and just use your training, not only your training in school and your experience outside of that, but also the training that you guys give us, the resources you guys give us in terms of, I mean, the online training videos go into depth about when to use it, when not to use it. There's so many different scenarios. It's hard to sum it all up in one answer. But if that's an answer you're looking for, you will get that answer in many different forms from StemWave directly, for sure.
Yeah, and I think I've heard this many, many times before by clinical advisors. Stem wave will definitely help pain in 99% of patients, but we do have those contraindications, and we have them listed not only when you do your group training, but in all of our materials thereafter. So, but for the most part, there's really very few times where you're not going to be able to use stem wave. I've heard Dr. Manison and our other clinical advisors talk many times about how it's so helpful, not only with soft tissues, but with bones, nerves, all that kind of stuff. One of the next questions are, what are the energies delivered?
Shockwaves, I guess to sum it up.
I guess you could maybe touch on like on the device, there's the interface and you can kind of
Yeah,
change the energy output. If
true.
you can give people an idea of like low energy versus high
Yeah.
energy, like what you're kind of seeing with it. Because I know there's a lot of confusion out there about like how much energy you should be putting into somebody's body with this device.
So yeah, that is, I guess, yeah, that's a good way to answer for sure. Because I know that something that I always make sure to do is if I guess this is kind of a situational thing too, at least in my experience so far, where typically if you're doing more waves, you do less intensity. So, you kind of lower the intensity if you're doing more waves, you increase the intensity a little bit if you're doing a little bit less of waves. So it's definitely something that is tailored towards each patient. Like if somebody comes in and they're extremely like, let's say I do 500 waves, um, which is kind of like I would say the minimum amount that I tend to do is right now is about 500. But if I do 500 waves and let's say somebody's extremely sore, either right when they're leaving or like when they come back 2 days later or whatnot, right, to discuss how their experience went, or for their second treatment, I would say, okay, well, in that case, you're probably delivering too much intensity. If you try to lower the intensity and increase the waves, you can decrease like the level of soreness. So it's something you have to be very mindful of, I think, in terms of, don't just have people come in and just be like, all right, get on the table, right? It's like you got to definitely have a lot of conversation all the time. And that's what you're going to be able to use in order to make the best decision on in terms of what that person needs. Because of course, it's kind of up to interpretation, I guess, to some degree when it comes to those things, how many waves you use. I mean, of course, we have protocols, but I'm sure people vary from the protocols all the time, in different regions. But for me, I just always go back to conversation. So, like, the energy is being delivered really depends on that person's response in their own body.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to mention. We do have protocols. It's a great place to start.
Yes.
In all of our group trainings and everywhere else that we have trainings, it's always mentioned, be a doctor, so
Yes.
make sure that you're doing a thorough, going through the
Exactly.
history and doing your own kind of assessment.
Yep.
But it is also always relayed that we're not trying to have people jump off the table with energy. So
Definitely not.
low energy is always better. This is a
Yep.
low energy device. That's going to be just as effective with usually our providers. You probably do this too. You want them to give you their feedback pain on a scale of one to
Yes.
10. And you don't
Yep.
really ever want to get to a five. You want to keep it like a three or
Yeah.
a four or something like that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
ideal. So
Exactly. That's exactly how I do it. I usually live in that four
yeah.
range. I hit some fives here and there sometimes, but I try to stay five or less at all times. But anything less than a four, I'm like, we're getting a little something, but I try to stay in that four area for sure on average.
Somebody wants to know, I can actually handle this as well. What type of providers can purchase StemWave?
Mm-hmm.
That Dr. Parisi talked about who we saw in his group training. I mean, there's physical therapists, there's MDs, there's chiros, there's all different types. You have to be a medical professional though, or have a medical professional that's kind of leading your clinic in order to buy one. But you can train your staff to use it. So we do have a lot of providers that are not actually doing the treatments themselves. That kind of saves them time in their schedule. You can train your staff on how to use it. And we have, like we talked about a bunch of times, excellent training, both in group training and our training videos.
Yeah.
Somebody else want to know how deep the energy is transmitted.
Well, I guess that's determined on the intensity. So like if you're cranking it up, obviously it'll go a little deeper into the tissue, but that's always to tolerance like we just talked about. So I guess it's transmitted as deep as necessary, let's say. So if we're hitting that magic number, let's say a 4 out of 10 on the pain scale, let's say, and that's the patient's biofeedback, then we're hitting it deep enough on that given day, let's say. And then, of course, over time, what we expect to see is the intensity numbers are able to increase over time while also still maintaining that 4 out of 10 on the pain scale, and then seeing also their daily pain scale decreasing. So over time, you will be able to penetrate deeper into the tissue for sure. No matter who the person is, usually the numbers go up over time. Um, but it's definitely, I mean, it's deep. It's deeper than radial. It's deeper than piezoelectric, electromagnetic. It reaches the deepest, and obviously that's why it's more effective. So in comparison to those other technologies, it goes pretty deep for
And I
sure.
think it's good to mention, even compared to some other electrohydraulic devices that are out there,
Hmm.
ours is focused, and that also
Yeah,
helps really get
and
in deep and pinpoint where the damaged tissue is.
and correct me if I'm wrong. Is it 12 centimeters?
Yes, 12
There we
centimeters.
go. 12
Yeah.
centimeters is the okay. I thought so. I guess yeah, because I saw the like you mentioned with the different devices, because he's curious about the soft wave. So I guess we kind of just went over that a little bit of the difference between soft wave and stem wave. But to me, I think that I don't know if this was Dr. DeCesaro if he said this, but because the soft wave is not focused, it's almost like the soft wave is more. If anybody's ever if a gun person here, I guess shotgun, right? Widespread BBs, rifle, very narrow, one bullet, more targeted. Um, you're more likely to hit the bullseye, let's say, at a longer distance. So that's kind of the main difference in my mind between the two that I always go to, or like, because I've had people come in here that have had soft wave, and we talk about what the difference is, and that's so main thing I say to them. I'm like, this is controlled waves. I don't have to move the head. I can just change the angle, and you'll feel the difference. As opposed to a soft wave, you have to move the head around in order to actually feel it in different areas. And then, of course, if I'm aiming for a small structure, let's say it's like somebody's ACL, PCL, or something, right? Something internal portion of the knee. If I'm really trying to hit it, I can just take the soft wave and just plop it on there, and that's great. But the difference is there's a very widespread dispersal of that energy. So all that energy that's not hitting the ACL is getting wasted, as opposed to when I have the stem wave device and you on there, I can target all those waves. So all of it is still hitting. We're still hitting the ACL in both, or ACL, PCL in both situations here, but we're using more of that energy on that actual tissue we're trying to target with the stem wave, and we're wasting a bunch with the soft wave. So that's like, at least in my understanding, that's the main difference that I think about. Um,
Yeah, I think
but it
that's
is better. Stem wave is better than soft wave. That's just my opinion. But yeah, that's how
we'll
I.
we'll hop on that. We'll hop on that sentiment for sure.
Yeah,
All right, my last question for you, Dr. Parisi. If you wanted people to know one thing about StemWave, what would it be?
I would say that for your patients, it'll be life changing. Just to sum it up, life changing for sure. I mean, that's just the woman I had in here earlier, like we talked about. She's brought to tears, and she'd been through everything, and she's walking up and down the hallway of my office, and she was like, you gave me hope. So that's just sum it up, life changing is what I would say.
Well, that's fantastic. I love that idea, life-changing, delivering hope. For everyone that's on this call, thank you for being here with us as we kind of hear Dr. Parisi's story with StemWave. If any of you are interested in bringing in a non-invasive modality um, to help your patients who have musculoskeletal, acute or chronic pain and give them that life-changing result, give them that hope back, it's very easy. I just put in the chat right now. You can go to our website, stemwave.com. You can click the button that says schedule a demo, schedule a call, and just talk to our team. And like we mentioned earlier, it's a very easy conversation. It's kind of like what Dr. Parisi and I are doing now. We're going to learn about your practice. We're going to learn about your type of patients. We're going to learn about what's walking in the door every day and see if StemWave is right for you. And if it is, great. We work with you to get the device into your clinic. It's 60 days, 60-day, try it out for free. We'll place a device in your clinic. And if for whatever reason it's not working, which is, we have such a low rate of people that doesn't work for, it's almost funny. This works for 98% of our providers. So I'm very confident. I'm sure Dr. Parisi is very confident that it will work for you. You'll get the results like he's been getting. You'll get those teary-eyed patients that are thanking you and saying you changed my life. But yeah, 60 days, really, it's a free trial. And if you don't like it, we'll take it back. But just click on that link,
Yeah.
stemwave.com, book a call with our team, and we support you every step of the way. So, with that said, Dr. Parisi, It was so great hearing your
Thank
story,
you.
getting a chance to talk to you. I'm excited to check back in with you many, many months from now and hear how much more success you've had and even more patients who are saying you've given me hope.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Appreciate everybody's time. Until next time.